An overview of what I'm going to talk about today. For each topic, I'll provide stats and examples followed by solutions and or safety tips. I'll be providing information on Christmas tree safety, holiday lighting, along with cooking candles and heating fire safety to help keep you and your family's holiday fire safe. All right. As you'll see on the bottom of most of the slides, I'll provide the source that includes the statistics and the data in the event you're interested in that specific topic. You can go to the source that's written there, and at the end of the presentation I will have some resources which will include the direct link to to each topic from the specific organizations and agencies. Okay. As you see, the holiday fires are not really common, but when they do occur, they're extremely dangerous, and you'll see on the next slide. I won't read each slide. You'll be able to get a copy of this afterwards, and also you can take a look at these. All right. Next, as you can see, the tree fires aren't very common, but when they do occur, they're extremely dangerous, and according to NFPA, Christmas tree fires are 3 times more deadly than home fires in general. And here's one for you trivia people. Did you know that before she was a successful country and pop star, Taylor Swift lived on a Christmas tree farm in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, which is located between Harrisburg and Philadelphia? That will be your only music trivia today. Oh, just a sec here. All right, we will see if technology is in my favor. This will be a video that shows the difference between a maintained or wet tree that has been watered every day or so versus one that hasn't. And later on, I'll address the fire that occurred in Maryland and Annapolis, 2015, and this is the exact problem that they had. It's a silent movie, so don't start punching your speakers. Well, I guess I can talk over this since there's not a lot of plot to it. On Monday, January 19th, 2015, a fire occurred at Don and Sandra Piles' residential home in Annapolis, Maryland. This massive 2-story home occupied more than 15,000 square feet in size, and the fire from the Christmas tree caused the house to be a complete loss to the house and all of its contents. The damage was estimated to be approximately $16 to $18 million. The final cause of this was determined by ATF and local fire, and they determined that an electrical outlet powering tree lights overheated, ignited the tree skirt, and it led to the inferno that ended up killing 2 adults, 56 and 63 years old, along with 4 kids, 8-year-old twins, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old. One of the things I'll talk about later with electrical safety, which was a problem at this fire, they had as many as 15 strands of Christmas lights plugged into each other or piggyback into one power strip, which was plugged into a floor outlet. Later, as you could see, sort of a reduced version on this slide where they showed the Christmas trees burning. Later, ATF did a controlled burn in their lab in Beltsville, Maryland. They took 2 15-foot Fraser firs, which was the size and type of tree that was in the Piles home in Maryland. They set them on fire. One was watered daily and the other was watered weekly. The one that was watered weekly ignited in less than 5 seconds, and the tree that was watered daily took almost 7 minutes to ignite. It's very similar to the video that I just showed you. There were 3 separate fire safety issues that we're looking at in this webinar that could be seen in this terrible tragedy. First, you need to water your tree daily. Second, don't attach more than 3 strands of lights together. And third, if you can, it would be great to install fire sprinklers. Here is another silent movie from NIST. Okay, this video, as you can see, is showing that in less than 30 seconds, the entire room will reach flashover. A flashover occurs when all of the combustible materials in a room or a compartment reach their auto-ignition temperature at the same time or near simultaneous ignition in an enclosed area, as the case in this room. Nobody can survive this. All right, on Christmas tree safety, as I had mentioned, I'll show you some of the things that can go wrong and then try to give you some tips that can keep you safe. First is if you're not sure if you're going to be able to keep the tree watered well, you know, where you have a lifestyle where you're going to be gone a lot, won't be able to water it, consider getting an artificial tree. In the old days, like when I was a kid, artificial trees were pretty hideous looking, but nowadays they can look very real and they're less combustible than live trees, and of course you don't need to both worry about watering and then you don't have to worry about taking them out to the curb. One of the things that has happened at our house, I live in the middle of nowhere where you can get a Christmas tree just down the road in the woods. And we had a Christmas tree once that ended up turning into a Valentine's tree, but luckily we had kept it watered. And one of the things that happens when you live at a house where somebody is active in the fire service is I'm always designated as the designated waterer, so I'm not allowed to go to bed till I water the tree, and that is in addition to the volunteer work my dog does. So if you get a live tree, you want to make sure that it's fresh. You want to touch it and make sure that the needles are springy and green, as it says. And now we'll have a little biology lesson for those of you that were asleep during that part of your schooling. It's important that once you get the tree, you cut off a little bit of the bottom of the tree and then place it in water right away. When you cut that, what you're doing is the clogged xylem, which is the little tubes that bring water up to the tree, become unclogged in the bottom, and then when you water the tree, the water can get up and get to the needles, so it will keep the tree moist. Another thing we'll talk about later with heating is the same with trees. You want to make sure that your Christmas tree is at least 3 feet away from anything that can catch fire or anything that can catch it on fire, such as a heat source, fireplace, radiators, candles, and lamps. Okay, the other part is that when you see it, your trees are space eaters. And what I mean by that, a lot of times you have a house that's set up with furniture that you have all year, and then you throw a giant tree into the middle of it. This can block egresses or exit points, and you want to make sure that you're able to get out of whatever room has the tree in it. The other thing you want to do, even though you open those Christmas boxes you haven't seen for a year, the lights are in disarray, they're all knotted and things like that. But it's very important that you unclog your knots there, and then you check each light to make sure that a whole string is working. And if you don't have replacement light bulbs, which are tough to get these days, it's better just to not use that strand if it's not functioning. Okay, next is a big problem is piggybacking. And what piggybacking is a lot of times people won't have an outlet near where their Christmas tree is, and they'll use extension cord after extension cord, sometimes power strip after power strip. This is called piggybacking, and this increases your chances of having an electrical malfunction which could result in fire. The other is you want to make sure that during the holiday period you don't have anything in your kitchen that is a flammable or combustible decorations. Again, when you're doing your lighting, you want to check and make sure that if you have frayed wiring or extremely old extension cords, not to use those. More than 400 people die from electrical home fires annually in the United States, and that comes from NFPA.
Electrical lights and decorations add to the magic of the holiday season, but key tips in mind can help you deck the halls safely. Inspect lights and extension cords before using them. Worn or damaged electrical items should be discarded. When purchasing new holiday lights, choose carefully and look for the safety laboratory labels. Do not string more than 3 sets of traditional style lights together. LED lights use less electricity, allowing you to safely connect more sets. Run extension cords along the wall and away from doorways to avoid tripping hazards. Do not overload electrical outlets with too many decorations or devices. Outlets can overheat and start a fire. Select a fresh green tree and keep it watered. Dry trees are a real fire hazard. Finally, remember to turn off all decorations before leaving home or going to bed. Make safety a tradition. Best wishes for a happy and safe holiday season from ESFI.
Okay. I will give you a link to ESFI and explain later what it is. This 30-second video PSA about holiday fire safety comes from the Fire Administration, which is where I work. And also when you listen to it, the guy sounds a lot like Denzel Washington, and I always listen to whatever Denzel Washington says.
This message brought to you by FEMA. Be fire safe during the holidays. Only use decorations that are non-flammable or flame retardant. Check holiday lights each year for frayed wires or excessive wear, and do not leave more than 3 strands. Never leave a burning candle unattended. Consider using battery-operated flameless candles, which look and smell like real candles. If your celebration includes a natural tree, keep it away from any heat source or exit. Water your tree daily to keep it from becoming dry. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov.
Okay. Now, continuing on the theme of decorations and lights, one of the things that's important, if you have stuff that's old that you keep in your Christmas box, and like I say, you just look at it once in a while, be sure that the lights that you're using are designed or approved for indoor and outdoor use, or indoor or outdoor. So you don't want to be putting the ones that are just designed for indoors to be outside. They're not set up to be able to deal when you get rain or snow and ice and things like that. As you see here, as I mentioned earlier, don't overload electrical outlets. And again, if you're going to have things that are going to be near heat sources, if you can't move them away, then make sure that they're flame resistant or flame retardant. All right, along with my designated water duties at home, I'm also the designated turn the lights off person every night. And that's another one. A lot of times people see the trees, they're so pretty when there's no other lights in the room, or the holiday lights. You got to remember to, when you go to bed or if you're leaving the house, to turn them off. And if you can have the lights, put them in an outlet that has a ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI. I could go into detail and have a little electrician 101 class, but suffice to say that if you see one of those outlets in your house, usually the newer bathrooms will have them. It's where you'll see the little button where if the light goes out, you can push that to test it so you don't have to then run to the circuit breaker room. The other is that you don't want to be shoving a 3-prong outlet into a 2-1 because it's set up for the 3rd one to be, again, to be grounding. All right, next we move to the other big thing that happens for fire safety during the holidays, and that is cooking. Okay, many families will have the same meals or massive meal of turkey and other things for Christmas and Thanksgiving, bringing similar dangers for both holidays or both meals. As you can see, in 2013, there are 1,500 fires on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve. And again, these are where most people are cooking more. You have a lot of people that aren't really used to cooking, and they'll try to do too many things at once, such as cooking and then, going into the other room and watching the football game. I can't put all the videos on here, but if you have your Google ready, then Google Stand By Your Pan UK Fire Safety, and you will see a very informative video on fire safety. Each year, deep fryers are responsible for about 5 deaths and 60 injuries, and the destruction of nearly 1,000 homes and more than $15 million in property damage, according to the National Fire Protection Association. Here's a video of when somebody mistakenly puts a frozen turkey, thinking that it will defrost quickly, in hot oil, and you can see what happens. And I think in America we don't have enough fried foods in our diet, so it's important to add turkey during Thanksgiving. And that was rough. On the next slide, I'll show you some things about turkey frying safety. And the reason that I have these here is that a lot of times people don't take out their turkey fryer except for Thanksgiving and forget some of the things that you need to be aware of to make sure that your fried turkey doesn't end up ruining your holiday and your home. They're not I don't know if you've ever seen them or used them, but they appear to tip over quite easily, and a lot of times they're already filled with hot oil, which can be a burning hazard. Another thing that happens that's a big problem is that when you put, as if you've ever cooked frozen French fries or accidentally dropped water in hot oil, it doesn't mix well, and you'll get, depending upon how much, a lot of smoke or perhaps even a fire. So you want to make sure that you dry off the turkey as much as you can and that it's not encased in a layer of ice. The other is once they get warm and they don't have temperature controls, the fryers will overheat the oil, and then that can start a fire when you leave the turkey in too long. And the last as a burn issue is these pans with very hot oil in them can cause you to get burned when you pick them up if you don't have kind of the proper gloves on. And those of you that are wondering which state has the highest number of turkey frying grease fires, well, it's where everything is big, and it is Texas. They led the country with the most grease and cooking fires, and this comes from insurance claims through State Farm. General cooking safety is never leave cooking unattended. One of the other projects I work on is campus fire safety and campus fire deaths, and unfortunately there were, of the 120 students that died in the last 17 years, there were 37 that died from cooking. And the most common problem with cooking is that people cook and then they either fall asleep or they do something else. They leave whatever they're cooking unattended, and then bad things can happen. Cooking has long been the leading cause of home structure fires and home fire injuries, as well as one of the leading causes of home fire deaths behind smoking-caused fires. National estimates of fires derived in the United States from the USFA's NFIRS, or National Fire Reporting System, Incident Reporting System, showed that from the period of 2011 through 2015, cooking was still the leading cause of structure fires. All right, some more things to be aware of is make sure that you keep the area around the stove clear. A lot of times people will have paper towels or dishcloths near it to clean up any minor spills. You want to keep those, again, like we talked about, at least 3 feet away and even further if you can. If you're frying something, if you can have a lid that can go over that if you have a problem, and then you can turn off the pan and then call 911. For an oven fire, if you can, you want to make sure that the oven door is closed and turn off the power or the heat is off. And then the one that's kind of common sense all the time, especially if you have kids, you're probably aware of this one, is always have your handles so they're not pointing out and people can accidentally bump into them. U.S. fire departments responded to an estimate average of 170,000 home structure fires involving cooking equipment annually. These fires cause an average of over 500 deaths, more than 5,000 injuries, and more than $1 billion in direct property damage. Excuse me. Overall, cooking equipment was involved in half of the reported home fires and 20% of the home fire deaths. All right. On candle safety, candles are used the most during the holidays. Again, it's kind of sets a nice tone when everything's dark in the house, except maybe the lights in your Christmas tree and a few candles. December is the #1 month for candle fires, where it'll have a lot of them tied to, of course, Christmas and Christmas Eve. Okay, more than half of the candle fires occur when a combustible material is too close to the candle. Again, there were 6 kids that were killed in colleges from having candles too close to combustible materials, usually bedding or curtains, or a lot of times the candles are so relaxing, they do such a job that you fall asleep. One of the paranoid things that I do, being in the working for the fire administration, is if I have a candle at home, I carry it with me when I go from room to room, so you never want to leave a room where you have a candle in there. And before you go to bed, you want to extinguish all the candles, and like I said, if you're moving to a different room and you're staying up, then bring that candle with you because you will forget about it. Here's a video on candle safety from the St. Paul Fire Department in Minnesota.
The flicker of warm light, the soothing, even romantic smells. A lit candle can inspire, but left alone, it can also kill. We're talking candle safety here. Almost every home has a candle, and a lot of people like to light them and then leave the room, leave them unattended. Why is that a bad idea?
The problem is even the safest container I've seen, and I've seen a lot of what I thought was a safe container end up starting a fire. So you never should leave it. I mean, it's actually a confined fire right now, but you leave the room, it can tip over, a little kid can start playing with it. It burned down and catch the artificial material here on fire. So we just tell people is, one, you never burn unless you're in the room at the time that you're burning it, and 2, check out your holders, whatever you're using. As this one you can see, it can burn down to the wood and catch this wood on fire. On this one, if you don't have it on a non-combustible surface, you could catch the table on fire. We see a lot of these where people are setting them on top of their TV, on their computer, in the bathroom, and they end up melting a hole through the TV, starting the TV on fire. So, and these are just real easy to tip over. So we just say people should be there in attendance and never leave one of these burning with a little kid in the room because they're just curious about fire. That's when they're going to start playing with stuff.
In this case, it's a candle sitting on a windowsill. A breeze through an open window or air from a heat vent can easily push the curtain into the flame. Within seconds, the room fills with smoke. Within minutes, the entire room is in flames. If not for the firefighters already outside, the entire house would be at risk. That's just one of many candle fire scenarios Jamie Novak has seen over the years. This one's a good example, Jamie, because this is a smaller candle. It's going to burn quicker, and when it gets down lower to about here, it'd be real easy if that was still burning to catch one of these things on fire.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll let this burn throughout the day, and we'll show what happens when it catches down to the material and catches that on fire.
And it does, with no one around keeping an eye on it. This could quickly spread.
And it catches table. If you had padded chairs around, it catches the chairs on fire, and then it may catch other things, the couch or other items within the room on fire.
And it's not just where the candles sit. It can also be the candles themselves.
You also need to be careful if some candles have embedded pine cones, or I know of one that had embedded coffee beans in it. That ended up spitting out burning coffee beans that was recalled.
The biggest thing to remember is to never leave a burning candle unattended. Never. But what about Halloween and lighting the pumpkin on the front porch?
So another safe alternative is you can just get battery-powered little look-like candles, and they act the same way. Good to put inside pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and stuff like that, but it's just another alternative that people can use.
Well, I hope I haven't scared everyone into having no tree and no candles and no lights this Christmas. But if you kind of live in this fire prevention world, a lot of us do, we just kind of have a picture of a tree and bow to it and call it Christmas. For a holiday candle safety, as we'll continue on here, this photo here, that was of a house fire that started with candles. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC, had stated that just if you follow these three things, and as the firefighter mentioned from St. Paul about 10 times in the previous video, never ever leave a burning candle unattended. And like I said, in my world, if I have a candle and I leave the room, I bring it with me. The culprits are usually something that are next to the candle, as they showed in that fire, but the other ones are things that you really can't control. Now, everyone loves their dog and their cat, and who knows what other creature you have running in your house. But these things, like children, will go to investigate and see the candle. And a lot of times, if it's a larger dog, they'll walk away, and then their tail can knock a candle over and result in a terrible fire. Alrighty, here's an infographic from the Fire Administration, and this shows consider using flameless candles. As I mentioned earlier, Christmas trees, artificial Christmas trees, have come a long way, as have the artificial or the electric candles. Some of them you cannot tell, even when you get quite close, whether or not they're real or fake. And the hosts of today's webinar, the National Volunteer Fire Council, a few years ago, I was at a meeting, and one of the things that they had on their table were electric candles, and unless you picked up the candle and saw the battery opening on the bottom, you couldn't tell if it was an artificial candle or not. And some of the ones even have scents to them. So if you can get some of these artificial candles that look as real can be, I would totally recommend it. Okay, the other is, as the firefighter mentioned from St. Paul, you think it's in a sturdy holder, but once the candle burns down a little, or if there's a wind, or if there's a dog, or if there's something else, the candles can get blown over, or if they burn to the bottom, they can cause a fire. So these electric have come a long way, and you want to give them a try. And most of the major companies that make candles, and being in the government, I cannot mention a certain brand, but if you think about the baseball team in the Bronx, that might help. And they also have a product which isn't a candle, but it's filled with fragrance spheres, or little tiny, look like little rubber balls inside, and those can also give you the same smell as a burning candle, but no fire. Okay, heating fires and candle fires are a huge problem, and what I'll cover after candle fire safety and heating fires is the whole use of space heaters. If you do get a space heater, and this caused the terrible death of 2 college kids, where somebody came home, it was winter, they turned on the space heater, and it was too close to the comforter, and the comforter caught fire, and the person whose comforter caught on fire noticed the fire, of course, ran out of the house, but then it blocked the exit, and two unsuspecting students that lived weren't able to get out. So when you get a space heater, if you get one, you want to make sure that it has an auto off or a tip over off, and that's where you have the space heater, and if it's accidentally bumped, then when it tips over, it'll turn off automatically. And here's another PSA from the Fire Administration.
This message brought to you by FEMA. Stay fire safe this winter. Turn portable heaters off when you go to bed or leave the room. Keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet away. Plug portable heaters directly into wall outlets. Inspect and replace damaged cords, broken outlets, or loose connections. Use portable heaters with an automatic shutoff so that if they tip over, they turn off. Only use portable heaters approved by a recognized testing laboratory. Learn more at www.usfa.fema.gov.
The big message to remember from this one is remember, always keep anything that can burn 3 feet away from your heater. You can see in this graphic, as I had mentioned, if you can have things 3 feet away from a space heater or anything else that you use for heating, whether it be a wood stove or a fireplace, keep a distance so things can't catch fire. And others, never use your oven to heat up your home or your apartment. Even though it seems like a good idea, they're especially inefficient, quite expensive, and they can cause fires, of course. Okay, here's the one, if you can get it. If you haven't tested your smoke alarms, as you recall, just last couple weeks ago, we changed the time and went back to standard time. And you've heard the thing where change your batteries, change your clock, change your batteries. Now, of course, you don't want to do that if you have a more modern smoke alarm or smoke detector that has 10-year batteries. But usually when you look at those, it'll have a big sticker that says 10-year battery, do not replace, and you probably can't open it anyway. But if you have one of the older models where you can change the batteries, it's a good idea to change the batteries in your smoke alarms and test them every month if you can. Another part that we don't, or people aren't aware of much, is having an escape plan. You always want to make sure that whatever room you're in, whether it's school or whether it's work or whether it's shopping, or of course if you're at home or in your rooms, to make sure that you have 2 ways out of every room. You'll obviously know the door is one, but you want to make sure that if one of your other exits is a window and you're on in a higher floor, that you either have a ladder or you can get onto something when you leave the window. The other is to make sure that your window's actually open. A lot of times people have windows, and if they haven't opened them in the summer, sometimes they can't open them at all. Excuse me, or they're nailed shut, or you have an air conditioner in which you can't remove. Along with smoke alarms, fire sprinklers reduce the death rate by 82%. They reduce the property damage by 69%, and very importantly, firefighter injuries by 69%. The USFA has holiday fire safety resources on the URLs or the web pages right here that you can go to, and they are updated at least annually, if not more, with new outreach programs, and if there's new statistics, they're put up there. I'm going to go through a few more places where you can get information, and then we should have about 10 or 15 minutes for questions. One of the programs that the National Fire Protection Association and the U.S. Fire Administration worked on together is Put a Freeze on Winter Holiday Fires, and this looks at the fires that are caused that we have, especially during heating and cooking, and also it looks at holiday Christmas tree and lighting fires as well. All right. As I mentioned earlier, ESFI is the Electrical Safety Foundation International, and they have myriad informational handouts on their webpage, and I have a few of those listed here. and they have some pretty neat short videos as well. Okay, NFPA, which anybody in the fire service, of course, has heard of, the National Fire Protection Association. They put out reports every year or two on Christmas trees and also on home fires, structure fires that are caused from both trees and from holiday decorations. And the web addresses are there. And if you're, if you're out there with the Google, if you put on NFPA and holiday fire safety, you'll get to these in the event you're too lazy to type those. Common Voices is a group that is an advocates coalition. It works to create a fire safe America, and I was, as I mentioned earlier, one of my other programs is Campus Fire Safety, and last week I was at a conference in Campus Fire Safety, and Bonnie Woodruff, whose son died in a horrific fraternity fire back in 1996, she was there talking about what you can do as an advocate for Campus Fire Safety. And Cher Grog, whose brother, sister-in-law, and their grandchildren died in that horrible fire I described earlier in Annapolis, she is also can be found with information on the Common Voices website. And this is my contact information. If you're too shy to ask a question today and you want to email me a question, my email address is right there, and I will get back to you within the day or so, and if I can't find the answer, then I will contact somebody that will have it. And that is all she wrote, or he wrote in this case. And the last couple animals are from when I went on my wildlife photography treks, and that's a sea otter from Morro Bay, California, for all of our West Coast folks. Again, we're complete here, and we'll see if we have any questions. And as I said, sometimes people don't want to ask them with everyone else watching or listening, and you can email me questions if you have them. Thank you.